Over the years, we have seen some wacky and wild events in Strongman, but which are the 10 events we should never see again? Wacky, crazy events in Strongman.
Honestly, you can't, how do you whittle it down to just 10?
Yeah, some events that we've thrown in here that are just, in my opinion, they're not really tests of strength.
No.
There's a couple of events that they're good tests of strength, but they are so high in terms of injury risk that maybe we're just seeing far too many injuries on these certain events. And then there's just a few thrown in there for some fun as well. You guys can let us know your thoughts as always in the comments below. Let's get started.
So the first event on our list is probably one of the more controversial ones because we see it all the time still, and it's the tyre flip.
Yeah, the tyre flip is one of those events. It's actually a good test of strength.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy watching it. But from a safety point of view, I don't think there's an event, if we did statistics on this, I don't think there's an event that's caused as many injuries as the tyre flip. We see it almost on a regular occurrence, you know, and it's one of those events you could do time and time again and then suddenly it just bites you. The amount of athletes that have torn biceps doing the tyre flip is just quite insane. Just recently, one athlete tore both his biceps on this event.
In Clash on the Coast this year, I think 4 or 5 biceps were torn.
There's been a number of competitions just this year, and I've seen multiple people getting injured on the tyre flip. So it's one of those events I don't think we should see again. It's just causing way too many injuries. It can be done safely, but the risk becomes when it becomes a sprint. It's almost safer when it's a heavier tyre and athletes have to kind of really use their chest against the tyre, and it's not so easy to just kind of muscle up. It's when they kind of muscle up, bending the biceps, and then suddenly you see them ping. We've seen it far too many times. It's an event that we need to get rid of.
So now let's verge into the slightly more silly. Now, to be fair, we probably won't ever see this event again, but it did happen. It's in the history books. The 1990 gravel shovel, although I think it was called the stone basket carry, but it was a gravel shovel.
It was basically a gravel shovel. The athletes were there with their spade, shoveling the gravel into this basket and then carrying. They actually had to weigh the amount that they of gravel that they'd lifted as well, didn't they?
The worst thing about this event was that there weren't even amounts of gravel in both lanes. So there was nothing. It's
one of the wackiest events we've ever seen. We definitely should never see it again. Although, for those that do like watching back, it is worth watching.
1990. So there is definitely no personal bias when we mention this next event, which was the Norse Hammer, which featured in the 2015 World's Strongest Man. So those unfamiliar, it was very similar to a Fingal's finger, except instead of just a finger, it had a big weight on the top, like hammer style.
Now, some people might say I'm a little bit bitter about this one. Now, the problem with this event, it was a Fingal's finger adapted. So they basically put a big hammerhead onto a Fingal's finger and didn't really test it out properly.
Is it true? Didn't they have 5 of them?
They had planned to use 5.
When they actually tested it, no one came close, did they?
No one was
they
close.
Had to take
and this was an event, yes, I got injured quite badly on it, but I wasn't the only one.
No, you weren't.
And, you know, the Fingal's finger is a good event. Visually, it's good, it's exciting, but the problem with the hammer is that you were having to kind of come to it from the side, and having that extra weight at the end of an already long kind of beam just made it so much heavier. And we saw so many guys getting hurt. The fact that you're kind of having to kind of shunt it up with your arms was putting more strain on the biceps.
At least 2 guys fainted as well.
Yeah,
it was bad.
It wasn't the smartest. Visually, it was cool. It looked good. It just needed better testing. I think a different type of event like this, maybe on some kind of ratchet system.
Arnold's did something like that.
Yeah, yes. Very similar. Something like that, I think, could be good. But doing it like a Fingal's finger just didn't work.
So one thing we don't really see much anymore is man-on-man events in Strongman, and one of the most infamous, I guess, was Murderball. Now, we first saw Murderball, believe it or not, in 1994 at the Strongest Man on Earth competition, which was held in Iceland, and then it's made its way to the biggest stage in 1995 with World's Strongest Man group stages, and it was a beautiful event.
This was when World's Strongest Man was really in its kind of gladiator phase.
It was,
they were trying to sort of recreate some gladiator type events. There was a number of man against man type events, and Murderball definitely visually has to be one of the best. A huge, big inflatable ball with
Filled with water, I think. Yeah.
and then the athletes had to try and push each other out of a ring with this ball. It was fun to watch. I'm not sure as an athlete you certainly, if you're on the beach having some fun with your mates, sure, I'm sure it'd be good fun just at the gym or something like that, messing around. To decide a world's strongest man or a big title, definitely not. We never need to see this event back in Strongman.
Now the next one is a classic Strongman event, and it's the bar bend. Now it was seen 7 times at the World's Strongest Man, but most recently in 1983. Also in 1983 at Europe's Strongest Man was when Sisterbrugt, I can't say his name, had a really nasty shoulder injury. Do you remember
That's when it
that?
was with a really loud pop.
A really loud pop. But we do sometimes still see it. You did it in 2018 at UK Strongest Man, didn't you?
I did, and I really enjoy bar bending.
Yeah.
I think when you know how to bend a bar, it's a little bit safer than they used to do in the olden days, where it was kind of like round the neck. That was like a shoulder injury waiting to happen. However, bar bending for me is a circus exhibition type lift. It's not a strongest man in the world or to decide a competition type lift again. I've gone and done it as part of exhibitions, kind of the kids' schools have done it before and people love seeing it. You pass the bar around.
Kind of like tearing a phone book or rolling a frying pan.
All those things.
Yeah.
Great fun visuals, but not events to decide champions in competition. No. So for me, I don't want to see any more bar bending. I love it as part of an exhibition. It's a great test of strength if it's something you guys want to just go and do, but we don't need to see it in a strongman comp.
So next is another event that we only saw once at World's Strongest Man, but it was bad enough to belong on this list. And it was the 1990 Backload Carry, which was the final event, a 100 kilo weighted sprint for 200 meters. Now, strongmen, they used to carry more like 400 kilos on their back for 10 to 20 meters, aren't they?
Yeah, for me, this should definitely never be seen again.
Never have happened.
I think some decent runners could beat strongmen pretty convincingly on this type of thing. I think the average person is more than capable of just putting 100 kilos on carry a 16 stone, 100 kilo
bloke on your back.
Yeah. 230 pounds.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that can do that. It's not that impressive in terms of strength. I'm a huge John Paul Sigmarsson fan, but O.D. Wilson 100% got screwed over that year. A 400-pound man was never going to beat the fitter athlete on that type of event. We can all argue, both of them great strongmen, absolutely, but I don't want to see that at a strongman comp again. It's just not needed. Save it for CrossFit, save it for something else. Do it as part of your conditioning, absolutely fine, but I don't want to see it in strongman.
Next is another man-on-man type event, and it is arm wrestling. We saw it at World's Strongest Man twice. First in 1984, it was the final event. Jeff Capes got hurt, if you remember, and John Paul Sigmarsson took the crown. And then, more famously, it was in 1995, the group stages, when Mega Man quite spectacularly broke his arm wrestling Magnus Samuelsson.
I've seen it at a few other shows as well. The UK's Strongest Man have done it before, a couple of other shows as well. However, arm wrestling, if you're a fan of this channel and you know me, I love arm wrestling, something I've really got into in the last couple of years. And arm wrestling is more of a combat sport than a strength sport. Strength is definitely important, but if you don't know what you're doing, it means nothing. The strongest guy can get beat by a much smaller athlete that understands positioning, understands technique, just like in a fight. Just being big and strong is not necessarily going to help you when it comes to arm wrestling. As fun as it is, if you get into arm wrestling, yes, strength is important, but when you've got guys that don't know what they're doing, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And that is most commonly when you see nasty injuries.
And that's exactly what we saw in 1995, because Magnus Samuelsson, he was a former European champion, and he was quite skinny back then, much smaller than
compared to Mega Man. Nathan Jones, absolute monster, hugely powerful, didn't have any technique, just trying to pull his arm across and ends up a spiral fracture in the humerus.
Now, I'm sad to put this one on the list because it's actually one of my favourite strongman events I've ever seen. It's the log chop from the 1989 Pure Strength competition.
This is just gold, this event. In fact, if you've ever seen the Pure Strength events, they are an absolute visual treat.
They're fabulous. They really are great competitions.
It could be another video of who could win these type of events nowadays. Yeah. But yes, this is another one that just is a little bit crazy. Athletes were chopping down a wooden pole, basically.
It's a wooden log, yeah.
And some of the athletes trying to speed things up were trying to jump on it, use their body weight. It was just all over the place. Pretty crazy. I mean, if you've ever seen timber sport, I think those athletes would be a lot more suited to it than maybe the strongmen were.
It's awful, isn't it?
But if you've never seen it, make sure you check it out. It is an hilarious event to watch.
Now, the last man-on-man type event on our list is wrestling. Flat out sumo style wrestling, which they did 4 times at the World's Strongest Man, most recently in 2004, and they were also doing it at competitions like Britain's Strongest Man.
They've done it at Britain's Strongest Man. I've seen it at a few team comps before. Yeah. It has turned up more times than you'd like to imagine, and every single time it happens, someone gets hurt. Strongmen are not trained wrestlers. No. They are big, dangerous, clumsy blokes that will just end up hurting each other. It doesn't end well. Everyone ends up hurt, and it's just not an event we need to see in the sport of strongman. Leave the wrestling to the wrestlers.
So the last event on our list is a medley, and medleys pop up all the time in strongman, don't they? And they consist of lots of different types of events, but this one was quite special. It was from the 1986 Hercules Cup, and it consisted of a sack race, a rope climb, a sprint, and what looks to be around about 100 kilo bench press for reps. This was a quite high level competition. It had the likes of Rick Akiri competing in it. So, the top athletes in that
Rick Akiri was like a monster bench presser as well. So God knows how many reps he ended up doing on this 100 kilos. Although after the rope climb, he probably didn't even manage that part, and to get into the sandbag and stuff like that. I think this event is definitely built for someone like Mitch Hooper.
Oh, he'd be great at this.
He'd probably love it. And, just watching some of the athletes do this today would be quite hilarious.
It would be. Maybe we shouldn't have this on the list. Maybe we need to see it once.
Maybe we'll just kind of
make it ourselves.
Add it in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's, fun for training, fun for conditioning, but not an event that we need to see in strongman.
So that is our official list that we could agree on, but there was lots that we couldn't agree on. Do you have one honourable mention each?
Well, anyone that knows me knows I have a passionate hate for duck walk.
Yeah.
Just one of those events that makes strongmen look stupid. I'm not even bad at it. It's not like I'm rubbish at it, but every single time I've done a duck walk, my legs are bruised to hell from where the handle kind of presses in against the legs. I'm waddling along looking like a damn idiot. I don't need to see strong men doing that. I don't want to see the duck walk ever again. Unfortunately, I won't get my way.
No, you won't. Okay, so my honourable mention has to be the hanging plunge from the 1997 group stages when they just had a US group. So one group at Worlds that year was all US athletes, and this was a genuine event. To get through to the main competition, to the final, they had to hang over a pool.
I think if there's a tie break at the World Masters, we should do this event.
Really?
Yeah, me and Rauno.
Yeah, no. Neither of you can have your arms straight up in the air, surely.
I can.
Oh, can you?
I can hang.
You can.
I do bodyweight hangs on a weekly basis.
Okay.
I'm happy with this event.
All right, bias is creeping in again. I think it's time to wrap. But I think what we should do as well is 10 events that we would love to see more of in Strongman.
Absolutely. You guys let us know the events that you don't want to see. Let us know events that you do want to see for that future video. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget, like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.